Thank you for the very, very kind words.
You want me to fix it? Do you want me to do this for you, or do you want to run the PowerPoint deal? Here, I got it for you. You just talk. You just tell me what you need.
Well, where do I begin? This is one of the only times probably in my entire life that anyone's ever asked me to speak about me. Okay? One thing to talk about carpet cleaning and the business and that sort of thing, but everyone's telling me, oh, you need to talk about your personal life. So, I started out, for the most part, as everyone else in the world, taking different jobs. But where I hailed mostly, really starting as an adult and I really had a real career, was as a theater manager for Dickinson Theaters. I traveled around the Midwest going from theater to theater, working my way up from a, 2-screen up to an 8-plex, when back in the day the 8-plex was state of the art. Anyway, during all of this, Wood Dickinson wanted to have a cultural change in the company. He was running into some problems, and he started a 7 Habits program. He introduced me to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I took the 3-day course with my hands folded across my chest. I was a non-believer. There's only a couple of the habits, maybe 2 or 3 at the most I bought into. The rest of them was me with my arms across my shoulder, or my chest, going, right, I'm going to go win-win with a 17 hormonal-driven kid in a movie theater. I'll be taken to the cleaners. Clearly, I didn't get it. But at any rate, I really kind of struggled with the material because I did see some of the principles in it. And I noticed the more I got into it, I noticed how each habit was actually interrelated to the others. Needless to say, over a period of time, I actually became kind of a guru. Started actually applying the principles in my theater management. And my effectiveness literally went up. I became the guy they would send from theater to theater, they have theater problems, bad management, whatever, to restructure and rebuild the team. During all this, my last stint as a theater manager was in the Olathe Theater in Kansas City. And I went to Wood Dickinson and said, hey, would you mind if I took this material and taught it? Could I have the hours, the payroll hours, to teach a few of my key people in my theater, like, supervisors and assistant managers? He said, sure, do it. And myself and another theater manager teamed up and we did it. It was an embarrassment to Stephen Covey, but we did it. Well, in this particular theater, it had all kinds of problems. To make a long story short, thankfully, I was able to turn this theater around, and I was not aware, but Wood Dickinson was watching this, and he had heard these things that I was doing with the 7 Habits material, and asked me one day, would you like to teach this full time? I about died. I said, you bet, let's do it. So I went through the Covey leadership training. I thankfully had the opportunity to meet Stephen Covey on a few occasions, and that's what I did for a year. It was probably the best job I ever had in my life, was going and teaching the same 16 and 17 hormonal-driven kids the 7 Habits material. And we would do this with businesses too as well, and key people. Anyway, but that was awesome. Well, the company became in jeopardy, and so he asked me to take over as the director of theater operations for Dickinson Theaters, okay? Which I did that, for a year and a half, and we were able to turn the company around, blah, blah. But basically what was cool about that was I took what I was doing in the theater business, just as a theater manager with, 20, 30 kids, turned around and did it with a multi-million-dollar theater company that had probably, how many we have? Probably 20, 25 theaters. So the principles are applied no matter whether you're small or big. So then I was lucky enough actually to be invited to actually be, interviewed for a book. He was looking for people who had actually implemented the material. And in the book, The Living the 7 Habits, which you can find anywhere in the bargain basement shopping areas now, are just stories about people who implement it, how they implemented it, and that type of thing. And it's kind of embarrassing, so if you ever find it, it's under the, I think it's something about organizational development or whatever toward the back of the book. And Wood Dickinson talks about me, embarrassingly, and I tell a story in there, but that's my 30 seconds of So I'm meeting Stephen Covey at another point, and I had him sign the book, because I thought that'd be cool. And one of the things I got a kind of reputation for it at Dickinson was everyone was referring to me as the eighth habit. Basically, that meant they would be talking to me about a problem or whatever, and to Andrew, basically, I went to the eighth habit. And what does that mean? That basically they stomped on the person. So, it's kind of like win-win, all this, and then they lose their temper, and they go, okay, well, let's talk about that. Anyway, so I had Stephen Covey sign it, the eighth habit. He asked me about it, and I said, I really don't know what that means, Stephen. Anyway, so he signs this. Needless to say, what was it, 3-4 years later? I didn't even get a mention. You know what I'm saying? So there. That was me as the director of theater operations.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then I left Dickinson Theaters and kind of tried a few other jobs. My last stint was working for J.C. Penney's, which I did not like and couldn't wait to get out of there. And basically, talking to a guy from my church, he says, where do you want to see yourself in 5 years, that kind of thing. I told him I want business, and he said, you should go buy one, don't start one. I went, well, but I don't have any money. He goes, get an investor. Like, you can go to Walmart to pick those out. So I actually had a buddy of mine from high school who actually came in money. And I said, hey, would you be interested in investing into this? And he said, sure. That's when the war on dirty carpets began.
Woo!
So I've been doing this for many years, as Shu mentioned, for, my goodness, how long? 11 and a half years. But about 9 years into it, I was starting to feel it. Getting older, couldn't do what I really could do. I used to do it as jack of all trades. I did all of it. And started using kids from the church to help me, pull stuff on and off the van. And then I started realizing I really need to find somebody who could take over the business one day. And I've been searching and trying to find the right person.
Is it any of us?
Maybe. And this is so true when I have a really bad day, because I have an amazing guy. This guy here is the reason why I can do BNI. Because without him, I wouldn't be here. I'd be behind the scrub line. Because of this, our business is now finally starting to grow for the first time in 2 years.
Great.
We're actually seeing it because of the personal relationships that we build in BNI.
Awesome.
And now the BNI has taught me how to go out and do this in other aspects. Same principles of one-on-ones, but now I do it with all kinds, with everybody I basically meet. Okay, running a bit out of time here. Jason's always telling me, really very quickly, Jason's always telling me, I'm never going to get to that half of my presentation, but nonetheless.
It's fine, whatever.
Jason's always talking about, why are we here? 5 things. Money, 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 right? Why are we wanting the money? Most of us have some reason at home like that. This is the reason. And this young thing loves her cow. This is us at Scotch and Sirloin. I decided as a father I want to make sure she knew how a guy should treat her.
Yep.
And so I took her to, she was probably, I think, 5, maybe 4. And she ordered a steak. And yes, it was a 16-ounce steak. The waitress said, are you sure you're going to eat that? She goes, yeah. She goes, if you eat all that steak, I'll buy your dessert. And she did. She ate it all. She loves her cow.
Yeah.
This is her. Now notice this picture. She still loves her cow. The quality of the cow has gotten better. That's a fillet.
Okay.
So she's costing me more and more money, which brings us back to money, money, money.
Yeah.
And I know one day, this is not going to be me sitting across from her, but a young man. And I want him to know how special she is. To treat her with, as a special person. And that's her current picture. I'm passionate about several things in my life. Star Trek, the original series, is something that I don't ever share. Very few people know this about me. All right? I never get to share it. It just doesn't come up in conversation on my carpet cleaning. By the way, do you happen to have an original series transporter sitting in your living room? Actually, yes.
King nerd.
Yeah.
All the lights and everything.
want one.
What I do is, this is what I do in my spare times. I go home and I build set elements from the original series of Star Trek.
Nice.
That's amazing.
We're gonna do our next BNI meeting at Andrew's house.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, I'll tell you, you'll find also everything that I have you can play with. I don't have anything under, well, one thing maybe, under glass. Everything else I want to be touched and fondled because that's the whole point. It's supposed to be fun.
That's amazing.
Oh,
If
yes.
only I had seen those shows. You still can.
Yeah, it's on Netflix and Hulu and all kinds of
This guy was actually, in fact, on the original series of Star Trek. He wasn't even a character. He was just a guy that they needed as a background person. That is actually the most interesting guy in the world.
Wow.
Wow.
And the only red shirt that's his brother.
And he didn't
Pretty
die.
much, Scotty.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do when I have a good day.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
We didn't get to talk about carpet cleaning. That'll have to be for the next one. I think we're about done, aren't we, Delilah?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you listening. If you don't need any carpet or upholstery cleaning, throw our name. We greatly appreciate it.
That was good.